Hey folks, and welcome to another video of mine, and it is here folks. We've finally got the Assassin's Creed Origins 60 FPS update on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and we're going to be talking about patch 1.6.0 on these consoles. Now so far, all the next gen consoles never were able to do 60 FPS because hey, this game, it's been around for quite some time, and it had not released any updates that would allow the next gen consoles to take advantage of the new hardware. So far, no 60 FPS, but with this patch, we have got exactly that. Now, I'm going to read a few patch notes from the release, the patch 1.6.0, as to what it has to offer. But there's not much, to go by here as to, what's been released in terms of the patch notes. Now, of course, you have an added support of 60 FPS on PlayStation 5 on both the Xbox Series X and S. They've even got a franchisee menu, and you've got an added option to enable higher frame rates on the PlayStation 5 console. It has improved stuttering and lag fixes and overall improvements in the performance and stability of the game. So that's what we can expect from patch 1.6.0. Now the footage that you see in the introduction, it's from my PC, which is the Asus ROG Strix G15, the Advantage Edition, but we are finally going to compare it to the Xbox Series S. I am going to be focusing more on the Xbox Series S in this video, simply because of the price to value ratio that it has to offer. Now in no way am I biased towards the Xbox Series S, but like I said, I have to consider the price to value ratio, and considering that, I'm going to be leaning more towards the Xbox Series S than the PlayStation 5, and probably end up talking more about it. So I'm no fanboy, just making it very clear right at the start of the video. I do not belong to Camp Xbox or Camp PlayStation or even Camp PC. I'm just an average gamer, just like you folks. Just trying to make a video so that I can probably share my experience through this video as to how it performs on these various devices. Now, if I compare it toe-to-toe with the PC, now it gives a solid competition in terms of your frame rates, and in fact, it does a better job in terms of the frame rates because it performs a solid 60 FPS. Now, the laptop that I'm playing this game on is Asus ROG Strix G15, the Advantage Edition. It has the Ryzen 9 and it had the 6800 Ryzen graphic card. So considering that, what I did was I cranked up all the settings to ultra high and high. They are all high settings, in fact the maximum that it can be. And I also kind of put in ray tracing, etc. So everything was cranked up in terms of the PC variant. And also in terms of the resolution, I was actually playing this in native 4K. So considering all that, on the PC, it was giving me say about between 40 to 55 FPS on an average. It was dipping down to below 40 as well, but that's again because of the fact that everything has been cranked up to the maximum that it can be. And even with all the settings cranked up, I think my PC did an okay job. So I kind of, indirectly I'm also talking about the Asus ROG Strix G15. It performs decently under these conditions. Now, if I have to compare the Xbox Series S with the PlayStation 5, now right off the bat, you will be able to notice the difference in the visual fidelity. Now, colors, please understand that, the footage that you see on screen, it's a direct extract from the consoles itself. So the real world experience may be very different. And obviously, you can tweak your color settings on your TV to achieve that optimum color reproduction that you want on your TV or on your monitor. But from the game footage captured from the consoles, you can see there is a difference in the way colors are being reproduced. But the real life experience may be very different. I just want to make that clear. Now, in terms of the frame rates, the Xbox Series S again goes toe-to-toe. It packs in solid punches, and it's really keeping up with the PlayStation 5 in terms of the frame rate. But in terms of the visual fidelity, obviously PlayStation 5 is going to be ahead of the Xbox Series S. Now, speaking of the visual fidelity, just wanted to make a quick note here. Now, the PlayStation 5 received a port from the PlayStation 4 Pro, and the PlayStation 4 Pro was also never able to do 4K in AC Origins, which means that even on the PlayStation 5, you're not getting a native 4K experience here. The resolution, I believe, is somewhere between the 1350 to say about 1580p, close to the 1600p. That's what it gets up to. So compared to the Xbox Series X in terms of the resolution, the PlayStation 5 is behind. Now the Xbox Series X can actually do 4K with 60 FPS, so that's really incredible. But hey, I don't have an Xbox Series X, unfortunately, so I'm with my Xbox Series S. Now on the Xbox Series S, speaking of the resolution, I believe, because this is a port from the One S, not from the One X, I believe it does say about 900 to 1080p. And here, when you see the difference of the PC and the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S, you kind of notice how the details deteriorate with the consoles. Now it is understood because, hey, the Xbox Series S was never a 4K console. They always advertise itself as a 1440p actually, but even that is not true. So it's kind of, in a way, you could say, not exactly false advertisements, but hey, it can do 1440p. And hey, in fact, it can even do 4K in some games, like Mass Effect, the remastered edition. It can actually do 4K in that game. So considering all that, the Xbox Series S does a good job. So even if I have to compare it to the PC, my overall experience in terms of the frame rate actually was comparatively better on the Xbox Series S because it gave me that stable, smooth frame rate. Now please note, I'm not a PC gamer. I have just got myself a PC for the last, say, about 2 weeks now. Now, I have not used a PC from 2009. I've been a Mac user from 2009, so it's kind of difficult for me to, get back to a PC. In fact, even game. And speaking of gaming on PC, it's not as simple as the consoles, that is. Because on the consoles, you just switch it on, take the controller in your hand, and you're good to go. But what I noticed with the PC was I had to actually do a lot of other things. For instance, I downloaded the game from Epic Games, and what I realized was that the game does not launch from the Epic Game Launcher. I had to then download Ubisoft Connect and launch it from there. Now, apart from that, it would not even work with my PlayStation 4 controller, which I had connected to my PC. So I had to download third-party, drivers, etc. to make that work. So it's kind of a tedious, you could say, job to get your controller working, and you have to tweak things here or there. For regular PC users, it may not be a big thing, but for me, hey, somebody who has not used a PC for a long time, I kind of found this to be a nagging experience overall. Because I've always had this joy of just plug and play when it comes to the consoles. So just wanted to point that out as well, because I am comparing this to the PC. Now, compared to the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series S, again, in terms of the frame rates, as you can see in the slow-mo footage, 60 FPS solid, it does that really well. The other thing I kind of noticed on the Xbox Series S and the PlayStation 5 was that the shadows looked much better on the Xbox Series S. I don't know for what reason. The PlayStation 5 had this shimmering effect when it comes to the shadows, which I never noticed on the Xbox Series S. So the Xbox Series S was capable of managing the shadows comparatively better. But hey, again, the resolution was not as good, but the shadow handling, definitely better. Frame rate, equal, you could say. And even if I compare it to the PC, it's in some of these cutscenes that you will be able to make out the difference, especially the detailing on the rocks. It's really, really good on the PC. Even the trees, the foliage, the background, the draw distance, etc. All of that is much better on the PC. And the colors, hey, again, I don't want to talk much about the colors, but I will say this, that I had turned the HDR off on the Xbox Series S, the PlayStation 5, and even on my PC. So the footage that you see is with the HDR turned off. I generally play with the HDR turned off. I kind of, like it on my TV because my TV, the Samsung AU9070, for some reason, it appears to be brighter when I turn the HDR off. So that's what I've been doing. But hey, again, color tweaking it's all up to you. It's in your hands, so you can tweak the colors as you go along. Now here, if you notice, even the speck of dust that's being released from the feet of all these characters on screen, it's comparatively more detailed on the PC. It is but obvious because I'm playing in native 4K. Now on the Xbox Series S, it's not that bad, because if you take a look at it from a distance of say about 7 to 8 feet on a 43-inch TV, I would say it does not matter much. But hey, when you really come up close, say 3 feet or even 4 feet, then you start seeing the difference. And in some of the scenes, the differences are pretty obvious. What I noticed was, the differences were pretty obvious in terms of the water surfaces. The water surfaces, the reflection is much better on the PC. As you see here in this scene, there's so much more detail in the water surface of the PC gameplay compared to the Xbox Series S. However, having said that, if you take a look at it from a distance, you may not be able to make that much of a difference. But from up close, yes, the differences are not that subtle, you would say, because the details in the floor, the surface, etc., they are really fantastic. Even the clothing on these characters, even the NPCs, they look so much better on the PC. Of course, you have an option of improving detail on the NPCs on your PC, so you can go into your settings and improve the quality of the NPCs as well. You can improve the textures, the shading, etc. So all of that freedom and liberty you have at the tip of your hands when it comes to the PC. Now these settings you don't have on the Xbox Series S. In fact, there are no graphic options like turning ray tracing on or off or setting texture quality, etc. You have to play with the default settings that the console has to offer. So that's one of the trade-offs when you play on the consoles, but one of the benefits of playing on the consoles, it's a simple plug and play experience. In fact, if I really have to share my experience about playing on the console, I find it really more comfortable to play on the consoles simply because of the fact that it's plug and play. And hey, I actually did not buy my PC to game on it. I kind of, wanted to experience Windows 11, and there are other things that I wanted to do, especially, with the Unreal Engine, etc. I wanted to learn how it works, etc. So that's one of the reasons why I bought this. This scene, notice the blood. There's a difference, obviously, there. So I just thought I'll mention that. So small differences like that. In some of the scenes, there are more, you could say, details. There are more details in the objects as well, but only sometimes. The differences are subtle in this case. Now here, if you take a look at these scenes side by side, again, I think, the way the lighting is baked, etc., it's more or less the same. There's not much of a difference. The footage from the PC, of course, appears to be a little more saturated and there's more contrast there. But hey, then again, I would again like to mention that it depends on your color settings. Now, overall, I think the Xbox Series S performs beautifully and it gives you your money's worth. So if you're out in the market and if you want to really game, and if it's the first console that you want to buy, Xbox Series S is such a great option. Now, you may just want to buy an Xbox Series S and then, maybe a MacBook if you want to do some video editing, etc. Not that my Asus ROG Strix G15 can't do video editing. I believe that, in terms of rendering, etc., and even viewing your timeline, the MacBook does a comparatively better job at video editing, especially with multiple layers, etc. So overall, my experience has been extremely positive. Great stuff. And let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section as well. And that's it for this video, folks. I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe if you like the content, and also that bell icon, please hit it. And I'll see you lovely folks in my next video. Until that time, I'll say take care, stay safe, happy gaming, and hey, may God bless you all.